back for episode 6.
Season 2.
Season 2. I can't believe we got to season 2.
Well,
We got greenlit for a second season. Do you reckon we'll do a third season?
yes,
Okay. You already greenlit it.
I already have.
It's like Jack Reacher, the Reacher show on Amazon.
Yeah, have you watched it?
Oh, no, I haven't. I'm going to, though.
I watched the first episode the other day.
Was there lots of violence and stuff?
Not much yet. Still setting up the scene, the
Yeah,
scenario.
but once he gets going,
Yeah,
he kicks ass, that guy.
Yeah.
And apparently it's already been greenlit for a second season.
Oh, has it really?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
it's only just like come out and Amazon's already gone, yep, we'll have more of that, thank you very much.
Did you like the first movie with Tom Cruise?
I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, but the funny thing about that was not music related at all, but
No.
he was nothing like Jack Reacher's meant to be. 'Cause
No,
he's
Jack
meant to be
Reacher-
6'4".
He's meant to be a giant.
Yeah.
You couldn't lose him in a crowd, but
Tom Cruise was tiny.
Tom Cruise is this
He
tiny.
played the role really well.
I thought he did all right, but you know what? I think in the end he was just being Tom Cruise kicking
Yeah.
people's butt. But I do like the way that they constructed the fight scene so it would look genuine that a guy like Tom Cruise
Could do it.
which is one thing I'll always give the guy.
Yeah.
Is you see some of these movies, especially unfortunately with the girls, these tiny little girls kicking these giant guys' asses, and you think, oh, they're accommodating stuntmen, aren't they?
Mm.
At least Tom Cruise actually does it, so he does look like
He knows what he's doing.
he knows what he's doing, which I'm a
Yeah.
fan of, So apart from my little love affair with Tom Cruise right there to start the show off,
And Jack Reacher.
and Jack Reacher, you know what makes an album sound good?
Yes.
What's that?
Volume.
Yes, that's the show. Go talk about volume.
That's the
Things
word
that go up
volume.
to 11. No. It's the polish in the studios. It's those session players who come in and play on records that kind of fix them up, so to
And-
speak.
I think everyone who listens to this podcast probably doesn't know how many session players there are out there who do the greatest albums we've ever listened to and don't realise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal when you start looking into it. Of
Spe-
what albums have that?
Especially amongst solo performers, so to speak. There's certain people that have played on pretty much nearly every record that you have ever bought.
Yep.
Even when you got bands, sometimes you got bands that the producer goes, okay, you've recorded your part, thanks, see you later. And then they get on the phone and ring up a session player to say, can you fix up this guitar solo? Or can you play this bass part? Or I've got a drummer that can't do any of this stuff, which has happened to Kiss. Very famously happened to Kiss.
Who played on Kiss?
Oh, Kiss. Well, let's get into some session players, okay? On the Destroyer album, it's famous that Ace Frehley didn't turn up to a lot of the sessions
Right.
due to whatever Ace was doing. So Bob Kulick, Bruce Kulick's older brother, played guitar on a lot of that. Uncredited. Some of these guys do go a little bit uncredited.
Yeah.
And he, Bob Kulick played a lot of guitar on the
album.
Destroyer album. So it's kind of, as a kid, I would never would have believed that. But when you find these things out, you listen to the album now and you go, oh yeah, Ace didn't play on that. Ace never played on that record. You can just tell. And also on the two albums, Dynasty and Unmasked, Peter Criss did not play drums. It was Anton Fig who played drums on those albums. Peter Criss just could not play those drum parts.
Wow.
So yeah, it does happen.
Do they have to put their face paint on when they do the session recording?
No, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. But see,
You must be a cat.
this comes down to it'll go hand in hand with like producers, and Bob Ezrin, right? He produced the Kiss album Destroyer. He also produced the Pink Floyd album The Wall, and it happened on The Wall as well.
Really?
Nick Mason couldn't complete all his drum parts to the satisfaction of Roger Waters. And Bob Ezrin was a real hard taskmaster and very much a perfectionist in the studio. And he was a musician, so he could read charts and music, and he knew when drummers could actually, they would complain. Kiss would complain that Bob would say technical stuff like, give me I can't remember, drum patterns or whatever. And Peter Criss would just look at him like as if to go, I don't know what you're talking about. I just
Oh,
play
yeah.
by feel. And Bob would be, well, that's not what I want. I want to do this. He said it's like going through musical boot camp. And I know on the Pink Floyd album, The Wall, Nick Mason had another drummer come in and play his parts.
Wow.
And also Richard Wright, the keyboardist, who was fired whilst making the record. The keyboard parts. He got somebody else to do that stuff. So, yeah, it does happen.
It does.
It does happen.
Well, I looked into a guy from Toto.
What do you mean,
Steve
a guy from Toto?
Steve Lukather.
What do you mean, a guy from Toto? All of Toto.
All of Toto. But my guy was a guitar player, Steve Lukather.
Steve Lukather.
He is one of the well-known guitar session players who's been in a band for a very long time and wrote most of the music for Toto.
Yep.
But he's also been on 1,500 albums.
Albums?
Yep.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yep.
I think
He's in his 60s now, so he's doing quite well. Cause
Yeah,
he's been on,
do you know which band he doesn't play for?
which band he doesn't play for?
Yeah, Toto. They don't get on because Steve had a cocaine habit, but Steve's played for everyone else.
Yeah, he played for Aretha Franklin and Lionel Richie and Richard Marx, Chicago, Donna Summer, and the band, as you said before, played with
Michael Jackson
Michael
on
Jackson.
Thriller, Dangerous and Bad and Dangerous.
Yeah.
Because the drummer, Jeff Porcaro, is considered one of the best session drummers ever. And all those drums that you hear on Thriller, Jeff Porcaro. Steve Porcaro played bass, and Steve Lukather played guitar on most of that record.
Most of those albums. And it's funny you were saying before because you get the band, the session player will come in to replace the band member, but in the song Beat It, Steve Lukather wrote.
He wrote the riff,
the riff and everything.
which...
But then Quincy Jones, you said, didn't like the solo?
Now, both, but I'm just now seeing apparently Lukather's riff too was too heavy.
Right, okay.
They still wanted it to be more of a pop song.
Pop song.
And Steve wrote this really heavy metal riff.
Right.
So he had to tone it down a bit. And then he did a solo, which I think they probably thought was...
Too heavy?
Too heavy.
So they called in?
Eddie Van Halen. Now, Eddie Van Halen, even though he played this famous guitar solo, apparently they weren't... He didn't lend himself out to play with other people. It was apparently a big thing to not play with other guys. David Lee Roth was very big on keeping Eddie Van Halen, this little Van Halen secret.
Yeah.
The stories when they first started touring, Eddie would turn his back to the audience to do his finger tapping so no one could see him and copy the technique.
Yeah.
And as Henry Rollins said, when you first saw, Eddie Van Halen play, they're supporting Ted Nugent. They're all there to see Ted Nugent. And Eddie Van Halen comes out and does his thing, and he said, you just see here, 10,000 jaws hit the floor when that came out, because they were, how is he doing that?
Yeah, and they couldn't see it.
David wanted to keep that as a Van Halen thing.
Yep.
Apparently, Eddie didn't tell the other band members that he played on Michael Jackson's Thriller.
He didn't. He didn't call from Quincy Jones and he went down there. And apparently he just rocked up with his famous guitar stuck in the back of his Ute.
Yep.
No case or anything, just
yep.
moving around as he drove. Walked in, played it. I think he played 3 takes, if I remember correctly. 2 takes.
Two
They
takes.
used the first
They used the first take. So I'd love to know where's the recording of the second take.
Yeah, I know. Imagine
Is
that.
it on any of the Thriller special editions?
I have no idea. I wouldn't buy them. I should though, just in case.
Just in case, because I've never heard it. I've never heard anyone come out with the alternate take.
I'm sure it would have been out by now.
By now it would have, yeah.
But yeah, he recorded, like you said, 2 takes. They used the first one, and then he left, and then that was the solo that everyone hears now. But they end up calling him back and saying to him, "Look," because they knew this was going to be a big song, and don't want to have any issues with money down the track. So he said, "We need to put you on a contract so you can make some money." And do you know what they paid him?
No.
And Eddie said, "Just pay me $1."
I didn't know that.
That's all he got paid is for $1. He said, "Just give me $1. Just to do the paperwork, I'll sign it, $1, and it's done and dusted." So that's what Eddie did. He didn't need the money.
He didn't need the money.
But yeah, that's he just
even though
didn't
it's the biggest selling album of all time.
Imagine. So yeah, he just got $1 for doing that solo because he had to.
Wow.
Because the kind of guy he was, I guess. But yeah,
He just probably felt I didn't need the money. He felt Yeah, and,
I think he
and
was
nobody thought that album was going to be as big as it was. No. There was never that expectation on Thriller. It was they wanted it to be big. They knew that, as I've told
They had
you,
something. They knew they had something.
Yeah, and I did tell you that was the first that 80s episode where I talked about the albums of the 80s.
Yep.
They went into the studio with the idea that every song on the album was a potential hit single.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they worked their butt off to make it sound like every song could be. And 7 singles off a 9-song album is massive.
Yeah, I know.
You
It's crazy.
Yeah, but apparently I heard the story that David Lee Roth, Eddie didn't tell the other band members, and David said he was driving around LA and he heard Beat It. He heard the guitar solo.
And knew.
And no, he went, someone's ripping us off.
Oh, okay.
He didn't think it was Eddie. He went, somebody's ripping us off. And when he raced back to tell the guys that there's this guitarist who sounds exactly like Eddie and he's playing on this record, Eddie had to fess up. And apparently David wasn't happy.
No, maybe not.
Yeah, he wanted to keep their own little secret, their own little...
He would have been in the studio with Quincy Jones, no one else, and Michael Jackson at the end of it for maybe 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, yeah.
And those guys can't do what he does, so they don't
No,
need to
how
worry about
long's that solo? What, it goes for 40 seconds,
No,
doesn't it?
not very long. Probably
No.
30. It's not a very long solo.
It's not a solo.
None of Eddie's solos are very long, to be honest.
No.
So, yeah, it wouldn't have been very long, but it was very, it was quite a well-known solo now.
But back on to Steve Lukather, Toto, the core members of Toto, they were known around LA as the session players.
The session band.
The session band. Because before Michael Jackson, they were Boz Scaggs's backing band.
Right.
And that album, Silk Degrees, which had Lido Shuffle and What Can I Say, and a few of Boz's other big songs, that album was huge in 1976. So Toto were already this core group of guys that were just players. And it's interesting, we're talking about that. You are someone who likes a band like Dream Theater.
Yep.
Right. Dream Theater are known as a musos band.
Yep.
They're known as like musos go and see Dream Theater, and you always know you're playing. Bands always say they always know they're playing to musos. They're not fans because musos stand there like this and watch everything that happens.
Yep.
I've seen Chris do it. I kind of do it myself.
They do.
I'm a little bit in both camps. I kind of go, yeah, oh, woo, what's he doing? You know,
Dream Theater split their screen up on stage, where you have the bass player on a third, the keyboard player, and then John Petrucci on the
John Petrucci, have a drink.
On the third section, and you watch them solo together because they all match.
Yeah,
they do the same kind of thing on their own instruments, and watching those 3 guys do that, they know that the crowd wants to see it. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing I'm getting at.
Yeah. And you don't move; you just watch.
Yeah, you just watch. Unfolded. Just
and
watch
you're angry because you can't do it yourself.
Yeah. And you get it in because it sounds better. Yeah, anyway. But the thing is, they were a musos band. Toto kind of flipped that on the head a little bit. They were a musos band, but they came out with pop songs. Rosanna and Africa and that album, Toto 4, musically some of the most intricate stuff you've ever heard. But you just hear the pop song. It's got these great hooks, great melody, and you can sing along. But no one realizes how hard the drumming is on Rosanna. Nobody realizes how hard the vocals and arrangements is on Africa. You know, it's incredible what those guys were capable of doing.
Steve Lukather is one of the greatest guitar players around.
Oh yeah, and I've heard he's a nice guy too.
Yeah, and he was really good friends with Eddie too. So they're all very good musicians, and they're all really good at writing songs and arranging songs and doing what they do. That's why, as a band, it was amazing they could be a session band. Yeah, go in and just replace, be a band they needed to be. It was pretty. But
the thing is, the thing about the session muso is they're not the one that go out and slog it around on tour.
No,
and it's sometimes if they do have a band, the band's not that successful, and they can make a living being a session player. Sometimes,
I think when you've appeared on 1,500 albums, you're doing pretty well.
You got to be doing something, right? Haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Last I saw with Steve Lukather is he was touring with Ringo Starr's All-Star Band.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's in the current lineup of Ringo Starr's band, but the one that toured Australia, nearly 10 years ago now, Steve Lukather was his guitarist.
Damn.
Yeah.
I was overseas, actually.
Were you overseas at that? Yeah. No, that's so there you go. You know, Ringo Starr always has really good musicians in
He's
his
got the
stuff.
best when he that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Phil X.
Phil X, Bon Jovi's current guitarist.
Yeah. He was a hired hand originally. I think he's been on 2 albums now with Bon Jovi.
Oh, a few. I think he's been on a few now.
His
He's
House
actually
is Not For Sale in 2020, which is the newest one.
Oh, okay.
But I found out he actually he was on the Tommy Lee album.
Tommy Land. Okay, he played on that, did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which I actually liked that album. I thought it was actually pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on that one. And he's also on Alice Cooper. He's done stuff with Alice Cooper.
Did he
Chris Cornell.
Oh, he did with Chris Cornell.
Kelly Clarkson.
Yes.
Adam Lambert. And also Avril Lavigne. She's been around for a while.
Phil X has, and I think the interesting thing is he is he's actually not a hired member of
Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi.
No. Not anymore.
Not
He
anymore.
was at first.
Yeah, he's now been made a permanent member of Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing. If we say, oh, what do you mean? He's now part of the Bon Jovi partnership instead of being paid a salary, which does happen with bands.
Jason Newsted, when he first joined.
Very famous, yes.
When he first joined Metallica after the death of Cliff, they had to go get a bass player to finish their Master Puppets tour. And lo and behold, they get Jason and they put him on as a hired hand to finish the tour, pay him $500 a week.
And he was on that for how long?
Well, the rest of the tour, I'm not sure how long it would have been.
But then he remained a hired hand
He
right up
wasn't-
through the Black Album.
No, he wasn't. I don't think he was after the Justice album.
You
I think Justice album, I think they put him off and put him part of the band, which is the next album. Yeah, I think
Do you think so? I thought that was always the problem. He was not part of the band. He was always a hired hand. Because you know who was still a hired hand in the band?
Who?
Ronnie Wood.
Is he?
He has never been made a part of the Rolling Stones core group.
Really?
Yep. Ronnie Wood is still a hired hand for the Rolling Stones.
He wasn't there from the beginning, was he?
No, 1976 on the 76 or on the Black and Blue album he joined. So since 1976, and Ronnie's made more money.
Does he write?
He never gets credited.
That's crazy.
Isn't it crazy? But he's on some sort of salary that's something like 800,000 to £1 million a year or something like that, which I think has allowed Ronnie to live a very, very comfortable existence. Because the Rolling Stones have always had their money tied up and stuff and lost their money. And I think some people have said it's actually, he's made more money being a hired hand. I think that happened with Pink Floyd too. You know, I said they fired Richard Wright during the Wall.
Mm-hmm.
They rehired him as a hired gun for the tour.
Ah,
And
right.
because that Wall tour was such an expensive show to put on, when people were only paying £10 a ticket to see a show, Pink Floyd lost money, except Richard Wright, because he was paid $10,000 a show
Wow.
to play. So there you go. Yeah.
Ronnie Wood, eh? Didn't know that.
Mm. And he's played on.
He shouldn't be in the posters of the band then, should he? He should be in the extra fold-out section.
He should be in the fold-out section, isn't? Yeah.
Here's the band of 4, but then his guy is a hired
It's
hand.
always this whole thing, you know. They've probably got the dagger over their head going, you know, just remember, mate, you are there's someone out there who could do your job.
Well, he doesn't. He just plays rhythm, doesn't he?
No.
No. Isn't Keith the?
No, Keith is not a lead player. Keith is a rhythm player. Hence why Keith is the greatest rhythm player of all time.
Yeah, but you can be a great rhythm player, but also a great lead player.
Nah, look at Keith's fingers. He can't play lead with those.
So they've got a lead player who's a hired hand the whole time since '76.
Yep. And Ronnie is a
And
very
he writes the leads.
yeah. Ronnie is a very underrated guitar player. I've always felt Ronnie's position in the band was very underrated, but Keith loves having Ronnie in the band because Ronnie.
Well, Keith will always win that argument, won't he?
Keith will always win when it comes to music. Keith will always win the argument because
He's Keith.
yeah, and because he said Ronnie, they have a way they play is around each other.
Right.
You know, so they play around each other, so to speak. And he says Ronnie just knows exactly what Keith's about to do, and Keith just knows exactly what Ronnie's about to do.
Just like it was with Charlie.
Yeah, that's how they all knew
set
it.
each up. Yeah.
Yeah, they set each other up. That's how they all kind of knew it. You know.
Yeah.
Now the Rolling Stones is all session players, and
Crazy, isn't it?
yeah, well.
Well, Bon Jovi's the same. They had a session player, I guess, or fill-in
Well,
bass player for years.
Hugh McDonald wasn't. What's his
I'm
name?
not sure.
Yeah, we talked about it the other time. Yeah, but he played bass on all their
Albums.
albums. Alec John Such was just like played live. And I'm starting to wonder if he actually did play live or this guy was standing at the back.
Imagine that. That's funny.
Yeah. Who else you got? Chris?
Michael Kamen.
Michael Kamen was more of an orchestral arranger
Well, he
and
was
stuff
a
like that.
conductor of the S&M album
He did the
back
orchestra,
in '99.
Pink Floyd stuff on the wall in the final cut. Michael Kamen did all the orchestration for that. He was kind of the go-to guy.
He was, absolutely. For that kind of music and that kind of style.
Well, yeah, for rock and roll, it was always, if you wanted an orchestral part, I think one of his biggest ones was Bryan Adams' Everything I Do It For You. Because Kamen also wrote, and he got credit for the writing, and he was a co-writer on that song,
Was he really?
which was huge.
Yeah.
That song was massive.
That was.
Yeah, and pretty much any of those songs that you heard from the late 70s through the 80s and into the 90s with orchestral arrangements was Michael Kamen. Very, very, very talented guy.
Who was the guy they called up for Silverchair who did the same thing?
Oh, Van Dyke Parks?
Yeah, wasn't he one of those guys who they often got for that kind of style of music as well?
Yeah. They got him to do...
Not as much as Michael Kamen, but he was also...
Michael Kamen was probably more... Van Dyke Parks, I think, was just a little too eccentric.
Right, okay.
Whereas Kamen, I think, was one of those guys that... You're always... When it comes down to talent v getting reliability, especially when you're in a studio and studios cost money.
Yeah. He wasn't on quick.
Yeah, you want someone who can do the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One session player that I really liked, he did a lot of YouTube videos during the lockdown in England, is a bass player named Guy Pratt.
Okay.
One of my absolute favourites because he played bass on Icehouse's, for Icehouse, from Primitive Man Tour, Sidewalk album, right up through to the Man of Colours.
Did he live here, did he?
He lived here in Australia for a while. He's an Englishman. Yeah. Lived here in Australia. Then after Icehouse, he joined Pink Floyd when Roger Waters left, but he was only ever the hired gun. And he played on Madonna's Like a Prayer album. And he did this whole thing. He'd break down all the songs that he played on. Like, people want to hear me do this song. So he would show him playing. And accomplished and great bass player. And a really interesting guy. If you ever watch his stuff, he's a great talker. He apparently did a spoken word show a few years ago. And I wish I'd gone to see him because I reckon he tells some great stories. Because when you talk about studios and how much time, because someone asked him once, what's it like working with Madonna? And he went, what did he say? Time is money and the money is mine. Get on with it. But he said in one of these videos, he talked about playing the bass groove on Like a Prayer, the song. And he said, I actually don't even remember coming up with this particular groove. He said he played it and he thought he did an okay job, but he really felt that Madonna would get another player.
Right.
Because he'd heard that she would I'll go get another bass player or something like that. And he said when they had the list, they were listening back to the track and they played Like a Prayer. He went, wow, that's a great bass groove. Who did you get to do that? And she looked at him and said, that was you, dummy. So he said, yeah, he had no recollection of coming up with that really cool bass groove in Like a Prayer, but that's
him.
A white Englishman named Guy Pratt. You're dancing to that guy.
Nice.
Yeah, he's one of my... I also always got a bit of a thing for that. And one I've been watching a bit lately too is this guy called Leland Sklar. He's got a beard down to here, hair out to here. Phil Collins bass player. He plays these 6-string basses and stuff like that. And just was really quiet, unassuming American guy, but geez, he can play.
Yeah.
He's played bass with Phil Collins for years, he's always been Phil Collins' bass player. Some of these guys will go on the touring band, but you'll find more than likely they're in the studio playing for these guys.
There you go.
Yeah. So there you go. There's a couple there for you too.
Yeah, Steve Gadd. Do you know Steve Gadd?
No, I do not. But you've
I've got him written down there because I was surprised. I don't really know much of his drumming. He's a drummer, but when I saw the list of people he's played for, you kind of go, well, why don't I know this guy?
Yeah, okay.
But he's played for John Bon Jovi, so probably not so much Bon Jovi the band, but maybe his solo work. John Bon Jovi's solo work, but Bee Gees, Kate Bush, Eric Clapton, Christopher Cross, Aretha Franklin, Quincy Jones, Paul McCartney, Diana Ross, Paul Simon and Barbara Streisand.
God, he's played with them all, hasn't
He's
he?
played with a lot of the top dogs in that.
Now
that
imagine
field,
one
you know,
too
it's
with these
crazy.
session players, how much a guy like him would charge for a session.
Yeah.
Because the drummer is in there the longest in the studio.
Well, they normally do their tracks first, and it takes a while to get.
It takes a while because you've got to get the drum sound right.
Yeah, that's
That apparently takes apparently when Bruce Springsteen was making Darkness on the Edge of Town, it took them. He was that much of a. I don't know if it's a perfectionist. I don't know if that's a word for it, or he was meticulous about it. But apparently, it took him 10 weeks to get the drum sound right.
Far out.
And I've told that's the first thing they do when you're in the studio.
Yeah.
Is you try and get the drum sound.
Yeah.
What drum sound are you after?
Well, if you got a drum sound for John Bon Jovi, it won't be the same drum sound for Paul McCartney. It won't
Absolutely
be the same.
not.
So it changes every time, and each person there would have a different producer
And
who
different.
wants something different.
And all of them are so completely different too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm thinking which.
And I picked the most famous ones, I guess, for me out of that list I saw. But the list was, 10 times longer. So it was pretty big.
But you think about it, with that list that he's got, they're all completely different styles too.
Absolutely. Like you can't get much difference between Aretha Franklin and Bon Jovi.
And this is what a great session muso has to do. They have to have that versatility.
Absolutely.
And having been in a band and you're the same, good drummers are hard to find.
They are.
Every drummer has got their own style. But you know who plays on a lot of albums from other people? Bloody Tommy Lee.
Does he?
Yeah.
Well, Travis Barker does too. And actually,
Well, I got no problem with Travis Barker. He's a terrific drummer.
Yeah, he is.
But it just seems like
he's in everything.
he plays for everybody, doesn't
Mike
he?
Portnoy does a lot too.
Yeah.
He's on a lot of things. So, yeah, a lot of drummers. Tommy Lee plays on who else?
Oh, he played on 9 Inch Nails.
Did he really?
Yeah, he's played.
Oh, there you go.
He's played with them a bit.
I watched that 9 Inch Nails you did a
The Tension.
Get On It with. The opening of that was really good with the lights on each. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Get on it. It's a good little side thing. Get on it. Get on it.
That was really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? But back on a guy like Steve Gadd. Look, you know what? That's the thing. I can honestly sit here down and say I've never actually heard of the guy, but
You've
probably heard a
You've
song.
probably heard.
And this is the thing about these session players is they're the hired gun. They're the person who sits in the studio, never gets credit for anything. And it makes me think of that. I can't remember her name, but she's just that female bass player. And she recently died, and she played on everything that came out of the Muscle Shoals studio out of Memphis. With all the soul artists and stuff like that. She played on everything.
All right.
Yeah, and I can't remember her name, and that's a discredit to her, and I'm really sorry. But yeah.
Well, Alice Cooper's another one who actually gets a lot of session players.
Yeah, but they
Unknowns. They become the band.
They become the band, yes, they do.
They tour with him for a while, then after a while they change and swap out and come back in again.
But he always hires the best, as he says.
Yep. Which is good. He hired Ori Anthony.
Yep.
The guitar player,
From Adelaide.
guitar player from Adelaide.
Yep.
And then she's
now with Richie Sambora.
But she went to Michael Jackson.
Yes, she did.
She was going to do this last show with him.
That's right. She was supposed to do that, yes.
She was on stage with him a couple of times going through rehearsals. And Alice Cooper replaced her with Nita Strauss.
Oh,
Great
Nita.
guitar player from LA. And she's touring at the moment with her own solo album. Her second. But yeah, I think it's really good how these people who've been around for a long time give people a chance and a break,
Yeah, of course.
And bring it out. Because they're good enough to do what they do, but it's also good enough to go, well, now you're on a tour with, like, Alice Cooper, for say. They can actually now afford to do their own solo albums. They can go and do their own things. So,
but it becomes their job.
It does become their job, yeah.
That's the thing.
They're hired at first, but that's their job.
It's their job.
Yeah.
And to be making a living as a musician is a good thing. It's a terrific thing. So you've got to be good at what you do to get that. Eric Singer, the current drummer for Kiss, he was a session player. He played for Alice Cooper.
Oh, did
You
he?
remember the Poison video? That's Eric Singer playing drums. And Eric Singer was Alice's drummer for a long time.
Right.
But, he was a session player to start with before he became the guy in Kiss.
Yeah.
And when
He only went to Kiss because Eric Carr passed away.
That's right, they asked him to join Kiss. And then he played with Kiss up until they did the reunion tour.
All right.
Because he told a funny story is that when he knew that they were going to do something after the Unplugged, when they brought the guys back in to do the Unplugged show. He said, I had a feeling they were going to do something. And when they did the tour, Gene said, look, we're going to keep you guys on the payroll and just see how this pans out. And he said, it was great. He said about, a year later, he gets this call from Gene Simmons saying, I want to have a meeting with you. And he went, oh, no, I've just bought a new car. He's going to fire me. And it did, true. He said, yeah, Gene only calls you in if he's going to fire you.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, there you
go. You generally want to have a meeting. It's generally, tour's going on. We're doing another year of the tour. And,
cool.
And then a couple of years later, they call Eric back and he's been with them ever since. So, yeah.
It's good.
But, I'm pretty sure Eric's a hired gun. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Gene and Paul.
Well, who's the guitar player now?
Tommy Thayer.
Tommy Thayer. He'd be hired too.
Yeah.
Bruce would have been Bob's son. He played with him for a while, didn't he?
Bob's brother.
Brother, okay.
Yeah.
He would have been hired as well.
Oh, yeah. I think Bruce came in as a hired gun, yeah.
So just Paul and Gene are the...
And when Ace and Peter came back to the band, they were only hired.
Yeah,
they were on salary. It was $1 million. It was good money they were on. But, they got pissed off because they were like, well, if I'm making $1 million, you must be making 10. Ego gets.
Well, that's like you said before too. Jason Newsted gets $500 when he joins Metallica back in '86. But then when he leaves the band and they hire Rob,
how would you have felt about that?
Over the table, he's getting $1 million to say yes. I'll join Metallica.
We will give you $1 million
right now if you join Metallica.
And what got me is it goes to show because Rob at that time was a session player.
Yeah, he played for Ozzy. And
he played for Ozzy. He played for another band called Infectious Grooves. He was playing for Suicidal Tendencies, but he was a member of that band. But,
yeah, he was.
But they were never big. But I like you showed Rob's place was just this tiny one-room apartment in LA with a bed and a tiny little stereo, and
his wife, and he had kids as well. So.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like,
let's go get a house.
Let's go. They've just given me $1 million.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, let's go buy a house.
You walk in there and then you walk out going, well, life just changed.
How did you feel?
I know, crazy. And then how would Jason feel?
Yeah, that's the thing. How would he feel about watching that?
But it was a different time too.
Yeah,
different circumstances as well.
Exactly. So there's a little thing we're going on about session musos and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Hope you enjoyed that. But guess what?
What?
It's time for.
Cool thing.
Cool thing.
And you're going first this time. Yes, you are.
All right, well... My cool thing this week, is a TV show again called Episodes.
Oh, the old Ricky Gervais one?
No.
Oh, I know the one you mean, the one with
Matt LeBlanc.
Yes.
It's one of my favourite shows, to be honest. I watched it recently again for maybe the 5th time. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, I have.
It's so funny, and I love the scene where I won't go into it. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but yeah, it's really good. It's really well written. And the lady who plays the head of, the secretary, I guess you could call her, or whatever she is, of the boss of NBC, her role is just great.
Because the story is, it's a couple that have come up
in the UK
with a television show with Matt LeBlanc as the star.
No. They had another guy in UK play the headmaster of a boarding school.
Right.
But the NBC producer said, I love your show here in UK. I want you to come to America.
That's right.
And recreate it over here. So they went and did that. But then they went, we'll just change a few things. The next minute, Matt LeBlanc is going to be the new headmaster. Well, he doesn't suit the headmaster. So let's change that to a school, then to a football team. Then now he's a ice hockey coach.
That's right.
It all changes. But it all changes because it's such a LA... The way they do it in LA with
And Matt LeBlanc plays the character like
he plays Matt LeBlanc pretty much.
But he's playing a version of Matt LeBlanc who's a real arrogant sort of.
Yeah.
But there's this one scene I do remember in the show where they talked about because they're a couple who end up breaking up over this whole thing anyway over the course of.
Yeah. I wouldn't have said that, but anyway.
Oh well, it's part of them. And they talk about. He talked about writing in a character who's a lesbian in the show or something like that.
Morning.
Morning, yeah. And Matt LeBlanc said, how many episodes did Friends run for? Like 259 episodes. Do you think if they'd have made Rachel a lesbian in episode 1, we'd have gone
That long.
that long
Yeah.
if you'd have done that?
Yeah.
No.
And he talks about Friends all the time. And he talks about the cologne that they made called Joey.
That's right.
So yeah, it was actually a lot of references to his life that we all know on TV, Joey and everything. But it was a really, really well written show.
And
the characters
what's it
have.
on?
Pardon?
What's it on?
Stan, I think.
I'm going to have to watch that again.
Yeah, that's so good. So
Ricky Gervais one, I was thinking I was extras. Sorry.
Oh, that's really good too.
That's good, yeah.
That's my cool thing. Episodes, watch it.
Oh, okay.
And yours.
Mine, I watched a movie this week, The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun, which is a Wes Anderson film. If you're not familiar with Wes Anderson's movies, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Royal Tenenbaums, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Chris is sitting here going, I've not heard of any of these
I'm not
movies.
typing that title into search.
Wes Anderson makes a very unique style of movie. The Grand Budapest Hotel is one of my favourite films, and this is very much in that style, very quirky, people staring straight into the camera, lots of very static shots, and I really liked it. Not as good as say the Grand Budapest Hotel, but still I really enjoyed it. It looked great and it sounded great, and yes, I just really liked it. So The French Dispatch. Oh, that's what everyone calls it as, but the full title, The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun. So there you go. That's my cool thing for the week.
Fair enough.
All right.
Still on the title.
Let's get out of here. I've got things to do.
Yeah, same here. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like, and all of the above, and catch you later on. Thank you.
Next time.
See ya.